Okay, so have you ever thought about how a country actually gets made? We're about to dive into this incredible story about one guy, his volunteer army in, you guessed it, red shirts, and a mission that was so crazy it literally put Italy on the map.
I mean, really think about that. How does one person build an entire country? It sounds pretty much impossible, right?
Well, this is the true story of a sailor who did just that. He got a volunteer army together and actually changed the map of Europe forever. All right, let's get into it. Our story starts out on the open sea, with a sailor who comes up with an idea so big it was going to change everything. And here he is, Giuseppe Garibaldi. As a young sailor, he's traveling around and he sees that the place we now call Italy, well, it wasn't one country. It was just a bunch of separate little kingdoms, always fighting with each other. He had this big dream of putting all those pieces together into one single nation. And to make it happen, he joined up with this secret revolutionary group called Young Italy.
So, what was their big plan? It wasn't just about uniting Italy. They wanted to create a republic. Now, you gotta remember, back then, pretty much all of Europe was ruled by kings and queens who got their jobs just by being born into the right family. The idea that regular people could actually elect their own leaders? Whoa, that was a seriously dangerous revolutionary idea.
And yeah, you can probably guess that the kings already in power were not big fans of this idea. Garibaldi was labeled a criminal. He was even sentenced to death, so he had to get out of Italy fast. But this exile, it turned out to be the best training ground he could have asked for. It's what turned him into a hero in not one, but two different worlds. He spent more than 10 years in South America, and that's where he really learned how to fight. But we're not talking about some big, organized army. Nope. He was leading these small groups of rebels, often going up against massive, powerful forces. He basically learned how to be the ultimate underdog and win. And all this experience, it made him an expert guerrilla leader. So what's that? A guerrilla leader doesn't play by the usual rules of war. They use things like surprise attacks, quick raids, and knowing the land really well. It's all about how a small, fast-moving group can outsmart a much bigger, slower army. And believe me, he was definitely going to need that skill when he got back to Italy. So eventually, the winds of revolution started blowing back in Europe, and Garibaldi knew this was his chance to go home. But this time, he wasn't going alone. He was about to lead one of the most famous volunteer armies in all of history, the legendary Redshirts. Now, Garibaldi's army was, well, it was different. These weren't professional career soldiers. They were volunteers. We're talking students, workers, artists, just regular people who were so inspired by his idea of united Italy that they were ready to leave their lives behind and fight for it. Okay, but why the red shirts? The reasons are actually super practical. For one, they were cheap to get, which is perfect when you're an army of volunteers with basically no money. Two, that bright red color made it easy to see your friends in the middle of a chaotic, smoky battle. But pretty quickly, that red shirt became way more than just a uniform. It became this powerful symbol of their whole cause. All right, so Garibaldi's got the skills, he's got the army. Now it's time for the main event, the 1,000-man conquest. And let me tell you, this was a mission that seemed absolutely impossible. Okay, so here's the situation in 1860. The northern part of Italy is mostly united, but the south is still its own separate kingdom. So Garibaldi comes up with this plan, a plan so bold it's honestly kind of crazy. It's called the Expedition of the Thousand. Here's the rundown. Step 1, gather 1,000 volunteers. Step 2, find a couple of steamships and sail south. Step 3, land on the island of Sicily and kick off a revolution. And Step 4, conquer the entire kingdom of the two Sicilies. Easy peasy, right? Yeah, not so simple. The odds were just staggering. I mean, look at this. Garibaldi's got about 1,000 volunteers, many of them with old beat-up guns. They're going up against a professional army of 50,000 soldiers. 50,000! And that army has modern warships, cannons, and the backing of a whole government. This was the ultimate David and Goliath situation. And yet, somehow, it actually worked. In their first major fight, the Battle of Calatafimi, the Redshirts charged straight uphill against a bigger, better-armed force, and they won. That single victory was like a match lighting a fuse. It proved to the people of Sicily that, hey, maybe this impossible mission wasn't so impossible after all, and thousands of locals started joining their cause. And after that first win, their conquest was just unbelievably fast. I mean, check out this timeline.
They land in Sicily on May 11th. By the end of that same month, they've already captured the capital city, Palermo. By August, they've crossed over to the mainland of Italy. And then, in September, Garibaldi just walks right into Naples, one of the biggest cities in Europe at the time, without even a fight. The king had already packed his bags and fled. In just 4 months, they took down an entire kingdom.
So just like that, he's conquered half of what would become Italy. And this leads to a massive history-making decision. It's time to unite the nation. This is the final choice. This is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Garibaldi has just conquered a huge kingdom. He holds all the cards. All the power is his. He could have easily made himself king or a dictator, whatever he wanted. So he's facing this monumental choice. Grab all that power for himself, or see his lifelong dream through and unite Italy under one king. That moment of truth arrived on October 26, 1860. Garibaldi rides out to meet Victor Emmanuel II, who is the king of northern Italy. And right there, in front of both of their armies, Garibaldi, the guy who did all the conquering, salutes the king and says, "I hail the king of Italy." Just like that, with those few words, he handed over an entire kingdom. You have to understand what a huge deal this was. Don't forget, Garibaldi's ideal was a republic, not another monarchy. But he put the goal, a single, united Italy, ahead of his own personal beliefs, and definitely ahead of his own personal power. By doing this, he almost certainly prevented a massive civil war between the North and the South. He literally chose his country's future over his own. So what did he get in return for this incredible gift? After this amazing campaign, Garibaldi said no to all the titles, all the honors, all the money they offered him. The only thing he asked for was some supplies before he went back to his quiet little farm on an island. It's just unbelievable. So in the end, Garibaldi's story is so much more than just battles and cool red shirts. It's really a story about what true leadership looks like. It's about sacrifice. And it leaves us all with a pretty big question to chew on. What makes a person choose a nation's future over their own personal glory?